We often convince ourselves that the world is a rational place. We tell ourselves that there is a logical explanation for everything. That sound in the attic is just the wind. That shadow by the fence is just a tree branch. We cling to logic because it makes us feel safe. But logic cannot explain everything. Sometimes the things we see in the corner of our eye are real. And sometimes by the time we admit they are real, it is already too late. Tonight I have 4 terrifying stories that will make you rethink your safety. These are accounts of people who ignored their instincts until the danger was standing right in front of them. From isolated farmhouses to busy city streets, these stories prove that horror can find you anywhere. So, turn off the lights, lock your doors, and let's get into the stories. The first story comes from a young woman named Jessica who was house-sitting for her wealthy aunt. My aunt and uncle live in a massive, modern house in the hills of California. It's one of those places with floor-to-ceiling glass windows that offer a beautiful view of the valley. But at night, those windows turn into black mirrors. You can't see out, but anyone outside can see everything inside. They asked me to watch their 2 golden retrievers for a weekend while they were away. I was excited. The house had a pool, a home theater, and a fridge stocked with food. The first night was great. I watched movies, swam, and went to bed around midnight. The dog slept in the room with me. The second night, things felt different. The air felt heavy. Around 9 p.m., the dogs started acting strange. They were standing at the glass sliding door in the living room, staring out into the darkness. Their hackles were raised, and they were letting out low, guttural growls. I walked over and turned on the patio lights, but the light only illuminated the pool deck. Beyond that, it was pitch black. "It's just a deer, guys," I said, trying to comfort them, but I felt uneasy. I decided to close all the blinds in the house. As I was closing the blinds in the kitchen, I noticed something on the glass. It was a smudge. I leaned in closer. It wasn't just a smudge. It was a handprint. A muddy, greasy handprint. And it was on the outside of the glass. My heart started racing. I knew the window cleaner had been there 2 days ago. That print was fresh. I checked the locks on all the doors. Everything was secure. I took the dogs into the bedroom and locked that door too. I tried to tell myself it was probably just a delivery driver who checked the wrong door, or maybe the gardener. I eventually fell into a restless sleep. I woke up at 3 a.m. to the sound of the dogs barking frantically. They were throwing themselves against the bedroom door. Then I heard it. Heavy footsteps walking on the hardwood floor in the hallway. My stomach dropped. I grabbed my phone to dial 911, but my hands were shaking so bad I dropped it under the bed. As I scrambled to get it, the footsteps stopped right outside the door. The handle jiggled. Then a man's voice spoke. It wasn't shouting. It was calm, almost polite. "I know you're in there, Jessica. The dogs won't save you." I screamed. I screamed as loud as I could. The man laughed, and then I heard a loud thud against the door. He was throwing his body weight against it. I dove into the bathroom attached to the bedroom and locked that door too. I huddled in the bathtub, finally dialing 911. "He's inside. He's trying to get into the room," I sobbed to the operator. For 10 minutes I heard him kicking the bedroom door. The wood splintered. The dogs were going crazy. And then, suddenly, silence. When the police arrived, the front door was wide open. The bedroom door was kicked in, but the man was gone. They checked the security cameras. The footage showed a man in a ski mask bypassing the alarm system with a professional hacking tool. He had been in the house for hours. The police found food wrappers in the pantry. He had eaten a sandwich while I was swimming in the pool. He had watched me from the guest room closet while I watched movies. He wasn't a burglar. He didn't take a single thing. He was there for me. And the only reason he left was because the police sirens got too close. Our next story takes place in a setting that should be safe, a 24-hour gym. I've always been a night owl. I work freelance graphic design, so my schedule is flipped. I usually go to the gym around 2 a.m. It's a chain gym, usually empty. Just me and maybe one or two other regulars. It's peaceful. One Tuesday night, I was the only person in the entire building. The only staff member was a kid named Mike who sat at the front desk with his headphones on, totally checked out. I was on the treadmill, facing the large mirrors that line the wall. Behind the treadmills is the free weight section, and behind that is a row of windows facing the parking lot. I was about 20 minutes into my run when I saw movement in the mirror. I looked at the reflection of the window behind me. A face was pressed against the glass. It was pale, with dark circles under the eyes, staring intensely at me. I turned around quickly, but the face ducked down below the window ledge instantly. I figured it was just some teenagers messing around. I went back to running, but I kept my eye on the mirror. 5 minutes later, I saw him again. This time, he wasn't at the window. He was standing by the emergency exit door in the back corner of the gym. The door was propped open slightly with a rock. My blood ran cold. That door is supposed to be alarmed. If you open it, sirens go off. But he had jammed it. He stepped inside. He was wearing dirty, oversized clothes that looked like they hadn't been washed in months. He wasn't working out. He wasn't holding a gym bag. He was holding a length of rope. He didn't see me looking at him in the mirror. He was creeping behind the rows of machines, moving toward the women's locker room. I realized with horror that he thought I was already in there. He didn't know I was on the treadmill because the row of TVs blocked his view of me. I stopped the machine and jumped off. I didn't run to the locker room. I sprinted to the front desk. "Mike," I screamed. "There's a guy in the back. Call the cops." Mike looked up, confused, pulling off his headphones. "What?" "Someone broke in through the back door. He has a rope." Just then, we heard a slam from the back. The intruder had realized the locker room was empty and had kicked a locker in frustration. Mike grabbed the phone and hit the panic button. I ran out the front door and got into my car, locking the doors. I watched the gym entrance. A moment later, the man ran out the front door. He stopped and looked right at my car. Under the parking lot lights, I saw his face clearly. He was smiling. He pointed a finger at me, mimicking a gun, and fired. Then he turned and ran into the darkness behind the building. The police arrived, but they didn't catch him. They found the rock propping the door open. They also found a knife hidden in the women's shower stall. He had been planning to wait in there. If I had finished my workout and gone to shower like I usually did, I wouldn't be telling this story. The third story is about the dangers of technology and how easy it is to be tracked. My name is Alex, and I'm a tech guy. I know all about cybersecurity, VPNs, and keeping your data safe. I thought I was smart. I thought I was unhackable. I started dating a girl I met on a dating app. Let's call her Sarah. Sarah was great, funny, smart, and she loved hiking as much as I did. We went out for a few weeks, but eventually I realized we weren't a good match. She was a bit too intense, calling me 20 times a day, showing up at my work unannounced. So I broke it off gently. She didn't take it well. She cried, screamed, and then suddenly went silent. No texts, no calls. I thought she had moved on. A month later, I started noticing weird things with my phone. The battery was draining super fast. Data usage was through the roof. Sometimes the screen would light up on its own when it was sitting on the table. I ran a diagnostic and found some malware buried deep in the system files. It was a stalkerware app. It gave someone remote access to my GPS, my texts, my photos, and even my microphone. I felt violated. I wiped the phone immediately and changed all my passwords. I assumed it was Sarah, but I had no proof. 2 days later, I went for a solo hike on a remote trail about an hour out of town. I didn't tell anyone where I was going. I just wanted to clear my head. I parked my truck at the trailhead and started walking. It was a weekday, so the trail was empty. About 3 miles in, the trail narrows and goes through a dense patch of pine forest. As I was walking, my new phone buzzed. I pulled it out. It was a text from an unknown number. It was a photo. The photo was of me, taken from behind, walking on the trail. My heart stopped. The photo had been taken just seconds ago. I spun around. The trail behind me was empty. "Who's there?" I shouted. Another text came through. "You looked better in the blue shirt you wore yesterday." I started running. I didn't care about looking cool. I sprinted back down the trail. As I ran, my phone kept buzzing. Buzz, buzz, buzz. I glanced down. It wasn't texts anymore. It was airdrop requests. iPhone would like to share a photo. iPhone would like to share a photo. Someone was running parallel to me in the woods, close enough to airdrop files. I could hear branches snapping to my left. Someone was crashing through the brush, matching my pace. I saw a flash of red color through the trees. Sarah always wore a red windbreaker. I made it to my truck, fumbling with the keys. As I tore out of the parking lot, I looked in the rearview mirror. Sarah was standing at the edge of the woods. She wasn't running anymore. She was just standing there, holding her phone up, filming me driving away. I went to the police and got a restraining order. They found her laptop full of photos of me sleeping, photos of me at work, photos of me inside my own apartment taken through the window. She had put a tracker on my truck too. I moved to a different state after that. I don't use dating apps anymore, and I leave my phone at home when I go hiking. Our final story tonight comes from a man who worked as a lighthouse keeper in the 90s. This is a story about isolation. In 1998, I took a job maintaining an automated lighthouse on a small island off the coast of Maine. It wasn't the old-fashioned kind where you have to crank the light. It was mostly just making sure the generator ran and the lens was clean. The island was small, rocky, and completely uninhabited except for me. A supply boat came once every 2 weeks. It was the perfect job for an introvert. Just me, the ocean, and the seagulls. The lighthouse had a small living quarter attached to the base. It was sturdy, built to withstand hurricanes. The only way in or out was a heavy steel door. During my second month, a massive storm rolled in. The waves were crashing against the rocks so hard the whole island shook. The wind was howling like a banshee. I locked the steel door, made some coffee, and settled in to read. Around midnight, the storm was at its peak. Suddenly, I heard a banging sound. Bang, bang, bang. It was coming from the heavy steel door. I froze. There was no one on the island. The supply boat wasn't due for another week, and no boat could survive in this weather. I told myself it was debris thrown by the wind. Bang, bang, bang. It was rhythmic, deliberate. Someone was knocking. I grabbed a heavy flashlight and walked to the door. There was a small, reinforced peephole. I looked through it. All I could see was rain and darkness. Then, a face appeared in the peephole. It was a woman. Her skin was gray, like wet clay. Her hair was matted with seaweed. Her eyes were completely white. She opened her mouth, and I heard her voice through the thick steel door, clear as day over the roaring wind. "Let me in. It's cold." I stumbled back, dropping the flashlight. "Go away," I yelled. "Let me in," she repeated. Her voice didn't sound human. It sounded like the ocean itself, gurgling, wet, deep. She started scratching the door. Scrape, scrape, scrape. The sound of fingernails on steel echoed through the small room. I dragged a heavy bookshelf in front of the door. I sat in the corner with a flare gun, shaking. The scratching continued for hours. "Let me in! Let me in! Let me in!" Around 4 a.m., the scratching stopped. The storm began to die down. I didn't open that door for 2 days. When the supply boat finally arrived, I ran out to meet them. I told the captain someone was on the island. We searched every inch of that rock. There was no one. There were no footprints. There was no boat wreck. But when we looked at the steel door of the lighthouse, we both went silent. The heavy gray paint on the outside of the door was stripped away. There were deep grooves carved into the metal. Claw marks. Hundreds of them. The captain looked at me, pale as a sheet. "Whatever made these marks," he said, "didn't have fingernails. It had iron claws." I quit on the spot. I took the boat back to the mainland and never went near the ocean again. I don't know what was standing outside my door that night, but I know one thing for sure. It wasn't asking for shelter. It was asking for dinner. The world is full of things we don't understand. We build our little bubbles of safety, but those bubbles are fragile. All it takes is one unlocked door, one open window, or one storm to pop them. If you ever feel like you're being watched, listen to that feeling. If your dog barks at the darkness, trust them. And if you hear knocking on your door in the middle of a storm, whatever you do not open it. Stay safe, stay hidden, and I'll see you in the next one.